They said she had buried 3 husbands, yet her face was smoother than that of a maiden. While others bent with age, her back was straight, her steps graceful, and her eyes bright as the morning sun. Some whispered that she was blessed. Others said she was cursed. But no one in the village dared to ask the widow why she never aged, until one curious soul uncovered the truth. The village of Ezanku was small, hidden deep in the green folds of the forest, where the river sang day and night and the drums of festivals echoed across the valleys. Here, time moved slowly. Children grew into adults, adults grew into elders, and the cycle of life never stopped. Wrinkles, gray hair, and stooped backs were the common mark of age, and the villagers wore them with pride. But among them lived one woman who defied everything that the village knew about life and death. Her name was Madame Chica, and though she whispered that she was well over 70 years old, she looked no older than 35. She was tall, graceful, her steps light like the morning breeze. Her skin was smooth, unwrinkled, and glowed like sunlight spilling on fresh water. Her hair, thick and black, fell like a young maiden's. Even her eyes, bright and sharp, seemed untouched by the years that had taken everyone else. "Look at her," old Mama Ijayama would whisper as Chica passed through the market. "Even the sun itself envies her beauty. How can this be?" The men shook their heads in unease, muttering among themselves. 3 husbands she has buried, 3 funerals she has walked through with dry eyes, yet not a single wrinkle on her face. The children, wide-eyed, whispered the most dangerous questions of all. Is she a goddess? Does she drink from a secret well? Or is she a witch who steals youth from others? But no one in the village dared to ask Chica directly. She lived in a small hut on the edge of the village, close to the river. Every morning, without fail, she carried her clay pot, fetched water, and hummed an old song whose words no one understood. Some villagers swore that the river itself stilled when she bent over it, as if the water longed to hold her reflection. The elders avoided her, the priest kept his distance, and the chief, whenever questioned, would only say, "Do not speak of her, do not question her ways. Some truths are better left buried." But silence never lasts forever. Like fire smoldering beneath dry leaves, suspicion only waits for a spark. That spark came from Obana, a restless young hunter. Obana was not like the others. Where the villagers bent to fear, he stood upright. Where they accepted mystery, he demanded answers. And most of all, he hated secrets. How can this woman outlive all her husbands, yet not a single wrinkle has touched her face? Obana asked loudly one afternoon in the market. Is this the hand of God, or the hand of something darker? The effect was immediate. Old women gasped in shock. A calabash slipped from one's hands and shattered on the ground. Traders turned pale and shook their heads. "Obina," someone hissed, "hold your tongue. You are calling death upon yourself." But Obina only narrowed his eyes, his jaw tight. In his heart, curiosity had already taken root. And roots, once planted, always seek the surface. That night, as the moon climbed high and the village settled into silence, Obina sat outside his hut, staring into the darkness. The image of Madame Chica's face burned in his mind. Smooth, untouched, eternal. He clenched his fists. "No human cheats time forever," he muttered to himself. "There is a secret, and I will uncover it." A dog barked in the distance. The wind rustled through the palms. But Obina's thoughts were louder. Somewhere near the river, a soft humming floated through the night. the same song Madame Chica always sang. The sound chilled his bones. He swore it carried words older than the village itself. And at that moment, Obina made a decision. He would follow her. He would watch her every step. He would find out why the widow who buried 3 husbands still walked the earth as if she were untouched by time. He did not know that his curiosity had already set in motion a chain of events that would shake Ezenku to its core. For secrets, once uncovered, can never be hidden again. And Madame Chica's secret was more terrifying than anyone could imagine. The night after Obina made his vow, the moon rose full and white over Ezenku, casting silver shadows across the forest. Most villagers slept soundly, but Obina stayed awake, his hunter's eyes sharp and restless. His heart beat with the fire of curiosity, and his ears strained to catch even the faintest sound. And then there it was again, the soft humming, the song of Madame Chica. It floated through the air like smoke, weaving between the trees, wrapping itself around Obina's mind. He felt a shiver run down his spine. "Tonight," he whispered, "tonight I follow her." He moved silently, like the hunter he was trained to be, his steps careful, his breath controlled. Through the forest he crept, guided by the song that grew louder until he reached the riverbank. There she was, Madame Chica. The moonlight fell upon her, as though the heavens themselves wished to adore her. She stood by the water, her clay pot beside her feet, her hands raised as if greeting the river itself. Her voice sang words that Obina did not understand, words heavy with age and power. Then, to Obina's shock, the river began to glow. Yes, the water shimmered faintly, like fireflies trapped beneath its surface. Ripples formed around Chica's feet, though she had not stepped into the water. Obina's breath caught in his throat. This was no ordinary woman. Chica bent low and cupped water into her palms. She drank slowly, and with each sip, her skin glowed brighter, her hair glistened, her body seemed to grow younger. Obina's eyes widened, his mind raced. So this is her secret, he thought. The river gives her youth. But before he could move, before he could escape, her voice stopped him. "You should not be here." Obina froze. Chica had not turned, yet her words sliced through the night like a blade. Slowly she straightened, her back tall and proud, her head lifting, as though she had always known he was watching. Obina's hunter's instincts screamed at him to run, but his feet would not obey. At last she turned, her eyes glowing faintly in the moonlight. They were not the eyes of a young maiden. They were the eyes of something ancient, something that had lived far too long. "Young hunter," she said softly, her voice both beautiful and terrifying, "curiosity has led you to the river of secrets. Do you understand what you have seen?" Obina swallowed hard, forcing courage into his words. I know now. You drink from the river to stay young. You have deceived this village for years. You— Silence! Her voice thundered, and the river itself seemed to tremble. What you saw is not yours to speak of. If you value your life, you will forget tonight. But Obina, stubborn as ever, clenched his fists. No, I cannot forget. The village deserves the truth. For a long moment, silence hung between them. Only the river moved, whispering against the stones. Then Chica stepped closer, her presence heavy, her gaze sharp as daggers. You think truth is a gift, but truth is a burden. Do you know what price I paid for this river's gift? Do you know why I remain while all others turn to dust? Obina's voice shook. Then tell me. He could still see her, Madame Chica, standing by the river, glowing with the strength of something not human. Her words echoed in his mind. Truth is a burden, and that burden will crush you. Obina paced inside his hut, restless. Sleep had barely touched him. His hands trembled as he thought of what he had seen. He wanted to shout it to the whole village, yet he feared no one would believe him. Worse, he feared they would believe him and the chaos it would unleash. Still, he could not stay silent. He stepped into the sunlight, eyes scanning the marketplace, where Madame Chica moved gracefully among the villagers. She laughed softly with a trader, her skin glowing, her smile flawless. No one else saw what Obina saw. Look at her, whispered a woman nearby. Even the years bow before her beauty. Yes, another replied. She must be blessed by the gods. Obina clenched his jaw. Blessed? No. What he saw at the river was no blessing. It was a bargain, a dangerous one. That night, unable to resist, he went to his closest friend, Naji, a fellow hunter. Sitting by the fire, Obina leaned close, his voice low. He said, I followed her. Naji frowned. Followed who? The widow, Madame Chica, Obina whispered. I saw her at the river, drinking from it, and the water glowed. For a long moment Naji stared, then burst into uneasy laughter. Obina, you have let stories cloud your head. You know the river shines sometimes under the moonlight. You dream too much. No, Obina said sharply. I saw her change, Naji, younger, stronger. This is why she never ages. This is why all her husbands die while she lives on. Naji's laughter faded. His face darkened. You speak dangerous words. If the chief hears you, or the priest, they will not forgive such talk. They will call it blasphemy. Then let them, Obina snapped. I cannot stay silent. The people deserve to know the truth. Naji had his head, fear plain in his eyes. Some truths kill faster than lies, my brother. Be careful. But Obina was not careful. The next day, whispers began to stir. Obina had spoken to one man, but words traveled like wind. Soon the market was buzzing. Obina says the widow drinks from the river at night. He says that is why she never grows old. Is it true? Could she be a witch? Eyes turned toward Chica with suspicion, though no one dared confront her. And Chica, for her part, seemed unchanged. She walked with her usual grace, carrying her clay pot, smiling faintly as though nothing in the world could touch her. But that night, when Obina tried to sleep, a strange sound woke him, a scratching at his door. He froze, heart pounding. Slowly he reached for his spear, his hunter's instinct on fire. Then came a whisper, soft as smoke. "Obinina." The voice was hers, Madame Chica's. His grip tightened on the spear, but his body trembled. "What do you want?" he forced out. Silence. Then the voice again, closer now. "You carry a burden not meant for you. Speak no more of what you saw, or the river will claim you." The scratching stopped. The air grew heavy. And just like that, silence. Obina sat frozen until the first light of dawn broke through his hut. His body shook, but his mind grew sharper. Fear battled with determination. "She wants me silent," he muttered, "which means the truth is even darker than I imagined." And so his curiosity deepened, twisting into obsession. He no longer sought to merely expose her. He wanted to know everything. The origin of the river's power, the price she had paid, and the danger she posed to them all. Obina did not realize that every step he took deeper into her secret, he was stepping closer to his own ruin. For Madame Chica was not just protecting a secret. She was protecting a curse. And that curse was hungry. The village of Ezengu did not sleep easily that week. Rumors drifted like smoke, clinging to every corner of the markets and every doorstep. Though no one dared speak too loudly, the whispers were clear. Madame Chica is not what she seems. Yet, when she walked through the village square, her steps were light, her laughter soft, her beauty untouched by the years. Some bowed in respect, others avoided her gaze, but none dared to challenge her openly. All except Obina. The young hunter's heart was restless. Each night he heard her voice in his dreams, soft and warning, telling him to stay away. And each morning he woke with more determination than before. He had seen too much to turn back. One evening, Obina returned to the river. The moon was a thin sliver, casting faint light across the trees. He crouched in the shadows, spear at his side, eyes sharp as a hawk's. But this time he was not alone. "Obina," whispered Naji, his loyal friend, stepping beside him. "Why have you called me here? You know I fear this matter. You must see with your own eyes. Only then will you believe me. Only then will you understand." Naji hesitated, glancing nervously at the river. But before he could answer, a figure emerged from the shadows. Madame Chica. Her clay pot balanced on her hip, her steps unhurried, her song soft. The same haunting melody Obina had heard before. She knelt by the riverbank, dipping her pot into the glowing water. Naji gasped, his body stiffened, his eyes wide. The river shimmered again, and Chica's skin seemed to drink in its light. She lifted the pot to her lips and drank deeply. Her back straightened, her skin smoothed, her very presence pulsed with life. This is impossible, Naji whispered, trembling. She is no woman, she is something else. Shika's song broke off suddenly. The night grew still. Slowly she turned her head, her glowing eyes locking directly on them. You should not have come. Her voice was calm, but beneath it was power, raw and dangerous. Obina rose from the shadows, his spear clenched tight. We know your secret, Shika. The people will know too. You cannot hide forever. She laughed, a low sound that chilled the air. Foolish hunter, do you think this secret is mine alone? This river has flowed long before you, long before me. It chooses who it blesses and who it curses. Naji shook his head violently. We must go, Obina. She is not human. But Obina stood firm, his eyes never leaving her. Then tell me, what did you give this river in exchange for eternal youth? What price did you pay? For the first time, her smile faded, her gaze hardened. You ask for truths you are not ready to bear. But since your stubborn heart refuses silence, then listen well. She stepped closer, the water glowing brighter behind her. Her voice dropped low, but it carried the weight of centuries. I was once like you, young, hopeful, afraid of death. When my first husband lay dying of fever, I came here, weeping, begging the gods for mercy. And the river spoke. It promised me life everlasting, beauty unbroken, if I would give it what it asked. What did it ask? Obina pressed, his heart pounding. Shika's lips curved into a bitter smile. It asked for blood. For the life of every man who would call me wife. And I agreed. Naji gasped, his knees buckled beneath him. You sacrifice them all? Madam Chica, her beauty perfect as ever, but her face shadowed with sorrow. She raised her hand and pointed at him. Marked, she whispered. Obina jolted awake, sweat drenching his body. His chest ached as if invisible fingers had gripped his heart. For the first time in his life, the fearless hunter was afraid. Not of lions, not of war, but of something he could not strike with his spear. At dawn, he sought Anaiji, who sat outside his hut sharpening a blade. You saw what I saw, Obina said, his voice raw. And Naiji's eyes were bloodshot, his hands shaking. I saw enough to curse my sleep forever, Obina. We must leave this alone. This secret is heavier than both of us. Obina shook his head. No. If we leave it, the river wins. She wins. And soon others may suffer. The people deserve to know. And Naji slammed the blade into the ground. And if they know, what then? Do you think they will rise against her or against you for speaking blasphemy? Sometimes silence is survival. But Obina's silence was already broken. Later that day, he noticed something strange. As he washed his hands in a clay bowl, a faint shimmer glowed beneath his skin. the mark. He scrubbed furiously, but it did not fade. Instead, it pulsed faintly as though alive. Panic surged in him. He covered the mark with cloth and hurried to the shrine of the village priest, Dibia Okeke. The old priest sat before a smoking pot of herbs, his blind eyes pale, but his hearing sharp. "You tremble, young hunter. What troubles you?" Okeke said, his voice like dry leaves. "Father, I have seen things I cannot explain. The widow, Madam Chica, she drinks from the river and it keeps her young. She told me the river has marked me. And now look." He unwrapped his arm, showing the faint glow. The priest hissed sharply, recoiling as though burned. "Foolish boy, you meddled where no man should tread." "Tell me what it means," Obina pleaded. Okeke's voice shook with both fear and awe. "The mark of the river is a bond. It does not come without reason. It means you are chosen or cursed. The river has claimed you. If you resist, it will take you. If you submit, it will use you." Obina's heart sank. "Then what must I do?" The priest fell silent for a long moment. Then he whispered, "Pray your spirit is stronger than hers, for if the river wants you, it will not let you go." That evening, as Obina walked back through the village, he felt eyes on him. Children paused in their play. Women hushed their gossip. Men turned their heads. The whispers that once followed Chica now followed him. The hunter who spies on the widow. The fool who speaks of cursed rivers. The marked one. Obina's fists clenched. His people did not know the danger. They did not see the truth. And yet, he realized bitterly, maybe Naji was right. Sometimes truth was not freedom. It was chains. But then he saw her, Madam Chica, standing at the edge of the square, her eyes locked on his. For the first time, she did not smile. Instead, she looked at him with something between pity and warning. Slowly, she raised her hand. For a moment, Obina thought she would curse him in front of everyone. But instead, she traced a circle over her own heart and pointed at him. The mark on his arm burned hot, as if answering her gesture. He staggered, gasping, clutching his chest. Villagers rushed toward him, but Chica had already turned and vanished into the shadows. Obina fell to his knees. The truth was clear now. He was no longer just the hunter who had discovered her secret. He was part of it. The next day, Naji confronted him. "Obina, you are fading. Look at your eyes, your skin. This thing is eating you alive." Obina nodded grimly. "Then I must face it. If the river has chosen me, then I will go to it. I will demand answers. I will end this curse." Naji stared at him as though he were mad. "End it? You cannot fight a river. You cannot fight what is older than the gods." But Obina only tightened his grip on his spear. "Then I will die trying. Better that than to waste away like a coward." That night, under a sky heavy with storm clouds, Obina walked toward the riverbank. His heart pounded. his mark glowing brighter with each step. The river rippled violently, as if awaiting him. And there she stood, Madame Chica, her beauty shining unnaturally even under the storm's shadow. "You came," she said softly, almost sadly. "Then it is true. The river has chosen you." Obina lifted his spear. "I did not choose it, and I will not bow to it." Chica shook her head. "You do not understand. Once the river marks you, you cannot escape. It will take what is as old through you or through those you love." Lightning split the sky, thunder roared, and the river surged higher. Obina's mark burned like fire, his body trembling between terror and defiance. But his voice was steady. "Then, let the river hear me tonight. I will not surrender. I will fight this curse, even if it kills me." The river roared louder, waves crashing, lightning striking dangerously close. Madame Chica's face twisted with sorrow. "You fool! You do not yet know what the river demands." And in that moment, Obina realized the true battle had only begun. The storm raged above Ezenku like a furious beast. The river, swollen and wild, crashed against its banks, as if alive. Lightning tore through the sky, illuminating two figures at the water's edge, Obina, spear in hand, and Madame Chica, her flawless face painted with sorrow. The mark on Obina's arm pulsed brighter and hotter with each thunderclap. His body felt like he was being pulled forward, as though invisible hands from the river dragged him toward its depths. "Resist no longer," Chica cried over the storm. "The river has chosen you. Fighting it will only bring death." Obina gritted his teeth. "Better death than slavery to your cursed secret." Chica's eyes filled with both anger and pity. "You do not understand. This power is not mine by choice. I was bound to it long before you were born. Every husband I buried was the river's doing, not mine. Their lives were taken in exchange for mine. That is the price of never aging." Her words struck Obina like a spear. For a fleeting second, he saw her not as a witch, but as a woman cursed, a woman trapped. But then, the mark on Obina's arm flared again, burning like fire. A deep, guttural voice echoed inside his skull, not Chica's, not his own. "Obina, yield. You are ours now. Through you, our hunger will spread." He dropped to one knee, clutching his head, fighting the voice that seemed to coil around his soul. "No!" he roared. "I am no one's slave." The river surged higher, waves crashing onto the bank, villagers drawn by the chaos gathered at a distance, gasping in horror at the sight of their fearless hunter battling unseen forces. Naji ran forward shouting, "Obina, fight it! Do not let it take you!" Obina forced himself to sit up. His body was battered, but his spirit burned. He looked at Chica, not with hatred, but with solemn understanding. "You are free now," he said softly. Chica met his gaze, her eyes filled with both gratitude and sorrow. free, but at a cost. You have done what none dared. You severed the river's bond. But know this, Obina, the river never forgets. One day it may rise again. Her voice faded as her strength left her. Within moments, she looked no different from any other woman in the village. No longer a legend, no longer eternal, just human. That night, the people of Ezenko gathered to honor Obina. They sang songs of the hunter who defied a curse older than the gods. Children touched his arm where the mark had been, marveling that it was gone. But Obina himself sat quietly by the fire, his thoughts heavy. He had won, yes, but he could still hear the faint echo of the river in his dreams, whispering promises, threats, temptations. And though he had severed its bond, he knew in his heart that some battles are never truly over. The widow who never aged was no longer a mystery. Her secret was exposed. Her curse was broken. But the river's wrath? It was only sleeping.